Hi, my name is Ken Fickler. I'm the founder and CEO of Gaze, and today I want to talk about recruiting and retaining talent in states where marijuana is legal. With the ever-increasing legalization of marijuana for recreational and medical use across the United States and several other countries, businesses are confronting an extremely challenging issue, which is how do they keep a workplace safe from impairment while employees are legally allowed to use marijuana? This paradigm shift presents an obvious problem for legacy chemical drug tests that employers have traditionally used. THC and THC metabolites persist for a very long time in the body after marijuana is last used, much longer than the experienced impairment. Therefore, relying on those tests commonly leads to disciplining or terminating employees who are safely and responsibly using marijuana on their personal time. We routinely talk with prospective customers that are coming to us because they recently had to fire someone for having THC in their system despite it being legal. This is a terrible outcome for both parties. The employee is, of course, losing their job even when they didn't do anything wrong, and the business is losing a good worker. Some businesses have responded to this issue by dropping THC testing from their drug tests entirely. However, this clearly endangers the workplace since employees will then believe that they can use marijuana at work without consequences. So what is an employer to do? Before diving into testing strategies, it's critical to acknowledge the changing landscape of cannabis use. And the reality is that cannabis use is extremely common and getting more so. Several recent studies have revealed a surprising reality. In 2020, over 55 million Americans, which is about 22% of the population, reported using cannabis. A 2022 Gallup poll found that 68% of Americans support recreational legalization of cannabis. And amongst millennials, the number jumps to a staggering 83%. These statistics paint a very clear picture. Cannabis use is here to stay, it's becoming increasingly normalized, and particularly amongst younger generations who are entering the workforce. Businesses must in turn respond with a rational and science-backed strategy to welcome these workers and keep their business safe. Traditional drug tests, which detect either active THC, which is the psychoactive component of cannabis, or metabolites of THC, which is what happens after your body has processed the THC, both have a major drawback, and that is that they cannot determine current impairment. These tests can reveal past use for days, weeks, or even months after the effects have worn off. This raises serious concerns for the employer, namely hiring and retention. Hiring and retaining good talent is one of the most important jobs of any business manager or owner. Punitive practices that eliminate at least 22% of your available workforce is a bad idea in today's labor market. Further, losing good employees to a chemical drug test that doesn't provide any useful information is extremely expensive, not to mention a huge hit to your company's morale. It's also increasingly seen as discriminatory. Punishing individuals for off-duty cannabis use unrelated to their job performance undermines employee privacy and discriminates against those who are using cannabis safely and legally. And depending on the test, even a negative test doesn't guarantee current sobriety. An example is a urinalysis screen won't be positive for several days after the person has used cannabis for the first time. So someone could be actively impaired in your workplace and pass a urinalysis test. This creates a false sense of security and unfair consequences for non-intoxicated individuals. Instead of relying on outdated chemical tests, employers should consider implementing impairment testing. These tests assess current impairment and provide a more accurate picture of whether an individual is currently fit for duty. Now, there are broadly two types of impairment detection technology. The first is performance-based, and that measures the worker's cognitive and psychomotor performance. And examples of those tests include reaction time, balance, attention, memory, and decision-making tests. Next is physiological, and this measures actual physiological changes in the body that are associated with drug impairment. And examples of those are eye tracking tests, heart rate, pupil dilation, blood pressure, and skin conductance tests. The reality facing thousands of businesses today is the need to balance risk and workplace safety while meeting the staffing needs of their organization. And of course, this is no easy task, and it's demanding employers drop their old ways of thinking and accommodate today's workforce. Implementing impairment testing alongside clear company policies ensures workplace safety while respecting employee privacy and attracting talent, regardless of their personal choices outside of work. Here are a few strategies that employers can use to navigate this very sensitive balance. The first is develop and adhere to a comprehensive drug and alcohol policy that includes impairment detection. Clearly outline your expectations regarding impairment at work, acceptable off-duty behavior, and consequences for violations, and apply those policies consistently and fairly across the organization. Next, educate your employees. Provide information about marijuana's effects, the testing methods that the company is going to use, and the policies regarding impairment to foster an understanding and compliance with those policies. Far too often, we hear about incidents where an employee was let go due to a lack of understanding about their employer's drug testing policy. And basically that means establish programs that can help employees that are struggling with substance use disorder and demonstrate actual care and promote a positive work environment. By acknowledging the changing landscape of marijuana use and recognizing the limitations of traditional chemical drug testing, and then embracing impairment detection technology as a more accurate way to maintain safety, companies can really create a work environment that attracts and retains top talent. Employees are demanding that employers respect their right to use marijuana in places where it's legal, and leading employers are listening to that. This forward-thinking approach fosters mutual respect, workplace safety, and higher morale, which ultimately, of course, contributes to a more productive and responsible company. The rewards for companies that can move to hire and retain marijuana-using employees can be significant. By simply implementing impairment detection technology to keep a workplace safe, that allows a business to access 22% or more in some talent pools, more talent than companies that have a zero-tolerance policy for THC. And in a tight labor market, these are the sorts of innovations that are allowing leading companies to get ahead and to stay ahead. Thanks so much for your time today.